talking about Python and Discord and great bots. Let's give a warm round of applause for him.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome to Python plus Discord equals Great Box. My name is Alex Oladele. Before I begin, I was told I should probably put this in here. All the opinions expressed in this talk are solely my own and do not express the views or opinions of my employer. Not that you know who my employer is yet, actually, at this point. We'll get to that. Furthermore, throughout the talk, you're going to see this little QR code. You'll know it's a QR code because it has my face in the center of it. So I want this to be as accessible as possible. So if anyone that comes in late, or if you decide midway through that you want to scan this QR code, you can do that. It's going to be on almost every single slide, so you will not miss out, I promise. All right, let's get started. So my name is Alex Oladele. I am a site reliability engineer at IBM. I want to say that this is actually my first ever conference talk. I've submitted a couple, not to this conference. This is also my first time attending PyOhio, but first ever conference talk. So I'm really excited that someone decided to give me a microphone and let me speak for more than 5 minutes. That might be a mistake, but we'll see. I grew up in Westerville, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. I actually hated Python up until April of 2019. I was working on a group project. I was naive and thought it was too messy. I had seen a lot of complex code. I came from Java land, so I'm like, this doesn't compare to Java. So I thought the whole language was like this. And then a week after trying it, turns out that I fell in love with it. Apparently I had just been looking at unnecessarily complex code, and that wasn't the standard with Python code. So I loved it a week later. I've also been a Discord user since 2017, and if you don't know what Discord is like a free communication platform similar to Slack or Microsoft Teams, but this conference utilizes Discord, so I hope people know what Discord is. And lastly, I have really enjoyed tabletop games such as Dungeons & Dragons, aka D&D. Since around the pandemic, I got into D&D during the pandemic, and I have actually only exclusively played it over Discord. It's going to be very, very soon my first time playing it in real life. But when I was playing it over Discord, I found some really cool, unique Discord bots to help me manage both my character and the gameplay experience. And I thought that these bots were so innovative. And they actually broke my mental limitations of what I thought Discord could actually do and what it was capable of. And after seeing that I had the ability to play these tabletop role-playing games on this messaging platform, I realized, oh, cool. I wonder what other cool features I can implement into Discord that it doesn't natively have. And this actually led me to creating some bots of my own. So that is really why I am choosing to do this talk here. And I want to teach you some of the foundations of building a Discord bot. And the method that I'm going to do this happens to be a dice rolling Discord bot. So why a dice rolling Discord bot specifically? Well, I have only 30 minutes here, and so the logic is pretty simple. It's essentially just a random number generator. Also, it does make playing other tabletop role-playing games accessible because you don't have to go buy dice. And so realistically, it allows us to save money by not adding to our beautiful, ever-growing dice collections. This is real. This is only one of 2 of the racks I have, actually. All right, let's talk about the agenda. I've just done the introduction. Thank you for letting me get through that. Next, we're going to cover some Discord bot anatomy. Then we're going to see some code examples of actually building a Discord bot. And after we've successfully built this hypothetical Discord bot, the next step is probably going to be installing and deploying it. And lastly, we're going to round things out by talking about how to prepare for scale. So before we even get to all of that, I'm going to lay out some of the tools that you actually need for building a Discord bot. First, we're going to be targeting the latest version of Python because we love being on the latest version. The last talk was great. I love updating everything. I have no qualms about upgrading things and breaking them. Don't tell my employer that. Next, we're going to be using the PyCord library. I want to say that there are going to be many Discord Python libraries out there, but this one is actually one of my personal favorites because it's so much cleaner than the rest that I've used, and the documentation is phenomenal. Like, I've not seen as good documentation in a very long time. You're going to have some intermediate knowledge of Python in general, some things including object-oriented programming, decorators, and data types. You'll also need a Discord account because we can't really do any of these other things without a Discord account. And you're going to have to actually create a new application in the Discord developer portal. And this is just where you give your bot a name, and this is where you would generate the installation link and a bunch of other stuff. And lastly, you'll need to know some dice lingo for this presentation to make sense. So let's cover that right now. So in tabletop games, and for this bot, you'll often see things like D4 or 2D6. And really, this is what it means. If you see the D in that phrase stands for dice or die, whatever you decide to use. And the number after a D tells you how many sides the dice has. If you see a number before the D, that tells you how many of that dice to actually roll. So here we have some examples, right? A D4, that's a dice with 4 sides, and it looks pretty cool. D6, this is your standard die that you see in basically any board game anywhere. And it really goes all the way up to D20. Technically, you actually even have D100, but it made the slide kind of odd, so I didn't include it in here. But then, when we talk about things like 2D6, that just means to roll 2 6-sided die and add the results together. Same thing with 3D8. You're going to roll 3 8-sided die and add the results together. Okay, now we get to talk about how the bot is going to work under the hood. So let's imagine that your bot is a superhero, right? It's always on call, ever vigilant, really watching out for crime. And your bot is listening to events, such as a user using a command. And when it hears one of these events, it's going to spring into action to handle the event. And really, here's the superpowered part. It can juggle multiple events at once, right? This is thanks to asynchronous execution. So while your bot is responding to one event, it's still listening for others in the background. And one of its tasks isn't preventing another task from happening. So it's non-blocking. Those are the terms we use, blocking, non-blocking. So it's kind of like having super speed and super hearing at the same time. And in this regards, the application context, that class is our trusty sidekick in all of this. It helps the bot manage these events and coordinate its responses. So if you've never seen the Pixar film, The Incredibles, your bot kind of boils down to this scene. So the older gentleman in this GIF, I say GIF by the way, just so you know, he is a superhero forced into hiding. He literally just got fired from his job. He's clearly upset. He steps out of his car, and there's this young boy on a tricycle who, clearly he looks up to this man. And so Mr. Incredible, that's his name, when he steps out of the car, he notices this young boy looking at him, and he goes, "Well, what are you waiting for?" And the young boy goes, "I don't know, something amazing, I guess." And really, that's what your bot is. Your bot is that young boy waiting for something amazing to happen. So another part of your bot are intents and scopes. And you can think of intents as your bot's senses and scopes as its permissions. So intents are going to tell it what to pay attention to, and scopes control what it's allowed to do. Intents are typically declared within the code. I say typically because there's a caveat for that. but they're typically declared within the code, while scopes are declared in the Discord developer dashboard as configuration. And I'm only going to introduce them briefly here, and we'll touch on a lot more of this later. Okay, now I have to take you to a tiny bit of Discord history. So there are actually two main ways to invoke a bot. You have prefix commands, and then you have slash commands. The prefix commands, like in the example here, and it might be a little bit hard to see just because screenshots are hard to do on PowerPoints, they're an older way of users interacting with a bot. So with prefix commands, you type in a character or word before your command, such as an exclamation point. And if your command was the word help, you type in exclamation point help. There was a lot of drawbacks to this system, right? First one is any bot or all bots in the same channel could use the same prefix. So if you have multiple bots in the same channel that have the help command and are using the exclamation point prefix, just like this example, you're going to get multiple bots responding back to you. And that's kind of messy, right? It doesn't look clean, it doesn't look nice. Additionally, and this is a security privacy thing, there you had no control over the information you were sending a bot. So for example, if for some reason a bot command needed your phone number, but multiple bots had that same command, and you just typed in, prefix command and your phone number, you could potentially be sending your phone number to any number of bots that you don't know about. And that's icky. We don't love that. So these are all the reasons that really made the prefix way of doing this convenient. This still exists, but Discord is replacing it with slash commands. And slash commands are the modern way for users to interact with bots. And really what it is you just type a /. This should look like a / to you all in the audience, hopefully. And you get a list of commands that a bot has and that users are able to run. You know exactly the information that what information you are sending to what bot, because each command is broken out by which bot actually has that command. And you know that you're only sending the data to the bot that you are intending to call. And that gives us a much cleaner experience. So overall, the slash commands are Discord's newer and preferred method for interfacing with Discord bots. So the rest of the talk is only going to focus on slash commands. Okay, now we get to talk about the fun part, the expected capabilities, not even touching the code quite yet. Here are the things we want our bot to be able to do, right? We want it to be able to respond to slash commands. We want it to roll any arbitrary number of dice. We're not paying for these dice like I mentioned earlier, so let's go crazy with how many dice we want it to roll. We want it to roll any number of sided dice as well, right? We don't have to limit ourselves to real world die. We don't have to do a D4, we don't have to do a D8. We could do a D37 just because I like the number 37. We want the bot to be able to keep some roles a secret. Secrets are no fun. Secrets are for everyone. That's not true. This does not apply to this bot. Secrets can be fun, actually. And lastly, we want to be able to direct message a user their role in case they want to easily remember, what it was in the future. They don't want to have to keep scrolling up and down through the channel full of roles, and yeah. So we're going to cover the nitty-gritty of actually how to make this happen, but here's a sneak peek of the input, what we expect the user to type in, and the output, the response that they expect to get back. So in each one of these examples, right, we have a roll a D4, and if they choose to roll a D4, it's going to output 2. It's going to do the roll, calculate the roll, output 2. This is a D15. That's not a standard die. The bot should be able to handle non-standard die. So they're going to roll D15, and in this case, the output happens to be 9. Lastly, if they roll a 2D20, right, it should roll 2 D20s. And in this case, we get an 18 and a 10, and we're going to calculate those rolls, add them together, and the total is going to be 28. So our bot is cool, it's amazing, But this is only a 30-minute presentation, so it can't be an absolute genius. It's essentially not going to handle anything complex, no complex, crazy dice expressions. And while we're not going to implement that logic in this talk, I hope you all feel empowered to, extend your own dice bots with that functionality. I know the part you've been waiting for, actually building the bot. Okay, luckily getting started is very low barrier. First, you're going to want to generate a bot token in the bot section of the Discord developer application, Discord developer portal. And then it'll spit out this bot token, and you're gonna wanna save that to your computer somewhere. I have ideal ways for doing that, but I'm not gonna tell you what to do, exactly how to do that, because I want you to make your own informed decision. Then all you need are these lines of code. You need to import the Discord module from the PyCord library. You need to read your bot token from environment variables because we really want to avoid hard coding. Hard coding is not great. Then you instantiate the bot object. And in this case, we're saving it to a variable called Discord bot, and it might be a little bit hard to read. And then lastly, you're gonna feed the bot your Discord token that you just saved earlier. And that's actually like the very beginning. That's all you needed to run a Discord bot. That's the start. But we're still building out this code, and a big component of the planned functionality is actually taking in user input. That's like basically most of it. It's the prerequisite to do anything else that we talked about earlier. We actually have to get input from the user. And so this is where PyCord's command options come in. There's actually two ways to specify a command option. One way is with the Discord.option decorator. And with the decorator, you pass in the name of an argument, which is what the user is going to see in the UI, and the data type of the argument. So this is what this looks like, and this is the name the user is going to see in the UI, and the actual Python data type it's going to be. Another way is by introducing a function argument with the Discord.option type hint. So in this example, dice_roll, that variable has a type of Discord.option, and then in the Discord.option constructor, we're passing in the actual Python data type we expect it to be, and a description of what the command option should display to the user. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit. I've implemented a lot of this logic just because I didn't want to have to try to live code it here, because that was actually pretty terrifying to do. And then when I was building this bot, I'm like, this is going to take way more than 30 minutes. So I've done the work for you. You could say I'm Alex GPT. All right, so after a bit of time, this is the code you write, and it does exactly what you're looking for. And I'm going to point out some things here. So at the start of this function, we see the keyword async. And like I mentioned earlier, asynchronous execution, that's what allows your bot to handle multiple things at once. It's not going to block one task while trying to execute another. And yeah, that's really what makes it powerful. Also, notice the application context, like I said earlier, your trusty sidekick. It really is going to handle everything, including responding to the user, as we see down here, right? Context.respond. Also, on that same line, we see this await context. Await is another keyword. I slightly lied earlier about not blocking things. There are going to be some instances where we do want to block execution. For example, when we're actually responding back to the user with the role that they requested, we want to make sure that that response makes it back to them. We don't want to just pass it off and handle it. We want to make sure that they actually get that response as soon as it is ready. So this is one of those cases where we are going to block execution, wait, and then continue. And so this is ultimately what the output ends up looking like for the user. You can see when they type in /roll, they are able to pass in the number of die they want to roll. In this case, it's a 2d10. And then when they hit enter, it outputs 2d10. The two results were 8 and 6. That equals 14. Cool? Easy dice bot so far. We've already done like most of the hard work. This is great. So, like I said earlier, sometimes you do want some privacy. Sometimes secrets are not for everyone. And so you want to do a private role, or a role that is only visible to the caller of the command. So PyCord calls these ephemeral messages. And they are messages that, one, only the invoker of the / command can see, and they disappear either when manually dismissed by the user or after 15 minutes. And I will note that ephemeral messages only work with / commands. You cannot use this with prefix commands if that is your choice for commands. All right, a little bit more code. Ultimately, what we're adding here is we're adding another argument to the function called whisper, and it's of type Boolean. We are still passing in a description, but some extra cool things we could do here with PyCord. We could give a default value. And in this case, right, we don't want to assume that the user always wants to make their roles private, and it'd be a little bit more work for the user to want to make their roles public. So let's, by default, make the roles public. But then, in the UI, when they're going to actually select the command, we have this choices list, which means the only options to be able to see in the UI are both true and false. And this is really helpful for data validation, because we don't want them to like just pass in anything they feel like. We don't want them to pass in phone numbers, because this 30-minute Python example is not going to be able to handle that. We have not set it up to. And then the only other addition here is that when we are responding back to the user, we are using the ephemeral argument here in the respond function or method, and it's just going to be the value of what the whisper value is, right? So it's either going to be true or false. And on the user side, it's similar to before, except now you see this little mini window here that says whisper. All right, so if you're the user and you see that, you can choose to click that, and it'll give you the options of either true or false. And then if you, assuming you do true, you still get the same role like you did before, except now you can see that it has this message, only you can see this, which means we've whispered the role to the user. All right, we talked about adding more features. And a direct message is one of those. Sometimes we want the user to be able to direct message their roles to themselves so they save it, have it for later. And really what a direct message is, it's a private message between one or more individuals. And a little tip here, actually, Discord has great privacy settings. Sometimes direct messages from people you don't know, they may get stuck in like a messages request box, and the user might just manually need to accept it. All right, onto the code. So the code is similar to what we had before. Essentially, the argument we're adding is the exact same as the whisper one, except it's called DM. But now we're also adding some logic here to the middle. So if the user chooses to DM, then we're going to pull the user's object, essentially, from the application context. And then we're going to do a try block here, and I'm going to explain that in a second. But we're going to take the user's object and send a direct message. Send here means send a DM. I wish they were a little bit more explicit with that, but you know, what can you do? And like before, we're going to await this because we want to make sure that the message gets to them successfully before processing anything else. So why is this in a try catch block? Well, like I said, Discord privacy settings are actually really good. And unfortunately, if the user chooses not to allow DMs from people, then the bot's not going to be able to DM them. And in this case, if that does happen, we want to tell the user, hey, the bot couldn't actually send your message, check your privacy settings. And that's going to be an ephemeral message because we don't need that in a public channel or anything. And the user is the only person that needs to care that's happening. And then from the user's perspective, you get the DM option, and assuming we choose true, it's going to both DM the role to you, right? This is 10d8, and then it's going to also output that in the channel. And I do want to note that whispering roles and DMing roles, not mutually exclusive. You could do them both if you really wanted to. Awesome. We did all this super hard work. Now let's start using this thing. So you're going to quickly find out that to be able to use your bot, you need to install it to a channel. There's a whole installation tab in the developer portal that walks you through how to do this. And ultimately, the installation link that you generate is what allows other people to actually install your bot as well as yourself in a specific server or channel. And you're going to notice that under the installation link in the developer portal, it asks for scopes for the bots. And as you are selecting scopes for the bots, the installation link is going to dynamically regenerate itself based on the scopes that you are selecting. And that is how it knows what scopes your bot actually needs. It's all right there baked into the installation link. And while you can just install the bot in your single channel, that's great. That's a great start. Unfortunately, maybe you put this out on Twitter or Mastodon or something, and other people realize that they want to use it too. Up to now, you've just been running this code on your computer. You never turn your computer off, and you're like, it's fine. I don't need to do it anywhere else. But this is not going to scale, unfortunately, or at least it's going to be very difficult to scale. So, some options for deployment that you have. This is where you're going to install you're going to move your bot to an external hosting platform, like any of these on this list. I personally like PyOhio because if you generate less than $5 of revenue each month, they just don't charge you, which is phenomenal. I've never paid them a single cent, even though actually I would kind of like to at this point, but save so much money. But the rest of these options are a mix of free and paid tier. But yeah, the benefits of actually using one of these platforms is that they guarantee uptime and allow you to scale necessary resources to actually run your bot long term. And this is what the installation looks like for the user, right? It's the bot name and then a list of permissions that they need to run. And the users, at this point, they still have the option to uncheck any of these permissions. But if they do, some functionality within the bot just might break. So now you're wondering, where do I actually publish this bot so a bunch of people can use it? Weirdly enough, Discord doesn't have an official marketplace for bots. I don't understand it. They're a huge platform. But a site called top.gg acts as an unofficial marketplace in the meantime. And you could publish your thing there. But again, the installation link can really just be shared with anyone. Okay, you've already scaled to one server. Let's talk about scaling to more servers. So, you've posted the installation link. You have installs in over 100 servers. You're a super popular bot. Someone's going to install it in the 101st server, and they can't actually. So Discord poses a hard limit at installation at 101 servers. If you want to be installed in more than 100 servers, Discord is going to force you to go through their app verification process. And the whole process is really well documented. And it's really to prove that you are a real person who plans to maintain this bot. And it's you're building trust within the community. And this is kind of what the app verification process looks like. It's a form, and they have requirements for some things you need. So you have to have a safe bot name. You have to have a terms of service. You have to have two-factor authentication on your account. They take this very seriously. All right, so remember how I said earlier that we're going to touch on intent and scopes again? Well, that's especially important because there are specific intents that live in the Discord developer portal. These are called privileged intents. And in order to enable any of them, you have to do app verification. And these are special because they allow access to a sensitive sets of data, like reading whole channel message history. Discord wants to make sure you are being safe, and so they force you to go to verification at high scale if you want to enable those intents. And yeah, like I mentioned, these are just an example of some of the intents found in the dashboard. So with this specific Discord bot, we don't need any privilege intents at all. That's fine, it's not an issue. Either way, we're still vibing. Our bot is like doing amazing. Like in the span of a week, we are installed in 2,500 Discord servers, okay? This is where things start to become a problem again. You're gonna find that at that level, responding to events, your bot responding to events, it becomes very, very difficult because it's trying to do it across 2,500 servers. And at this point, Discord is going to force you to shard your bot. And sharding is really just splitting up your bot so each little mini bot handles different servers. And you don't want to shard your bot before doing this because it will actually make your bot go slower beforehand. But at this level, it's necessary. And let me just show you what is needed to shard a bot. You just change this to auto-sharded bot. That is it. Before it was discord.bot, now it's discord.auto-sharded bot. And I know I'm at the end here, and it's great because we did it, everyone. We successfully deployed a modern Discord bot, right? It handles slash commands. It allows users to DM their roles to themselves. It can also whisper their roles to the user because not everything has to be public. We learned a little bit about deploying your bot to an external service. We learned how to install our bot to our channel. We also learned how to allow other people to install their bots to their channels. And we learned how to scale the bot up for hundreds and even thousands of channels. So I want to say that I am proud of all of you right now for doing this, and I'm proud of your instant success and popularity. Yeah, so classic social drop. I'm pretty much at WizKidAlex, WizKid_Alex, like everywhere. I try to be as uniform as possible. Like I said, this is my first talk, so I would actually appreciate it if you scan the QR code. It's going to take you to a link tree, and there's a Google form where you can give me feedback, and I definitely would love feedback. That'd be so wonderful. And at around this time, on that same link tree, the link to the basically template repo that I went through here is going to be in that link tree, as well as this presentation. And I'm happy to answer any or all questions via outside or through socials. Feel free to hit me up any single way you want. And again, thank you. Appreciate you coming here. These are all some of the references, sources I use for this talk. And yeah, thank you.